Hey, you guys, welcome back. It's Liv. Today, we're talking about a major Supreme Court decision that could reshape immigration enforcement in the United States. Many Americans are saying this is exactly what they voted for. They want their families, friends, and neighborhoods to be safe. They want to have a chance to work the jobs that have too often gone to those who entered the country illegally. With that in mind, let's break down the Supreme Court's new 6-3 ruling, which lifts restrictions on roving immigration patrols. The court lifted restrictions on what are called roving immigration patrols. Now, this means federal agents can now use contextual factors like if someone only speaks Spanish and does not speak English, or have a noticeable accent, sometimes called broken English, the type of work someone is doing, and even the location where they're gathered to determine whether there is a reasonable suspicion for a stop. To provide you some background, this ruling comes from the Noem versus Vázquez Perdomo court case, where Pedro Vázquez Perdomo was sitting at a bus stop allegedly waiting to go to a construction job when ICE and DHS agents were involved in his arrest. Agents were acting on surveillance and tips from citizens about areas and location with high concentration of illegal workers. Here's what they're not telling you on the news. These individuals are illegal immigrants, and some have been recruited to work at these jobs, which is illegal. Employers here in America cannot legally hire undocumented workers, and being in the country without authorization is against the law. Here's what happened. A judge in Los Angeles had blocked federal agents from stopping people based on factors like language, job type, or being in certain public locations, right? The decision was challenged, and the Supreme Court stepped in, lifting that block in a 6-3 vote. Now, immigration agents can once again act on the ground with the tools they need while this case continues to move through the courts. The critics are calling this racial profiling, but the reality is very different. The decision is about protecting American citizens and making sure our laws actually mean something. ICE and DHS agents are carrying out the work instructed by the highest officials, using contextual clues to do their jobs effectively. Their efforts make neighborhoods safer by addressing public safety threats like human trafficking and cartel activity, which are too often ignored in the conversation. This isn't about racial profiling, it's about enforcement based on the totality of facts to identify people who are breaking the law. Using language, location, or job type as contextual clues is part of ensuring American citizens' rights and safety are upheld. Framing this solely on Fourth Amendment issues or racial profiling is misleading because those protections are meant for citizens and lawful residents, not for individuals who are here illegally and engaging in criminal activity. The media often overlooks this distinction, focusing only on racial aspects when in reality, this is about criminal prevention and the rule of law. Let's take a look at a brief clip that goes over the Supreme Court ruling. Here
Someone
is
may
the
be in the
clip.
country illegally. And in a move that was somewhat surprising today, the High Court issued an emergency order that halts the restrictions that had been imposed by a federal judge on ICE raids here in Southern California. The 6-3 vote of the U.S. Supreme Court is a victory for the Trump administration and the Department of Homeland Security. The High Court's conservative majority, at least temporarily, removing restrictions that had been placed on immigration and customs enforcement officers in the 7 counties of Southern California. L.A.-based federal judge Noem had kept ICE agents from using factors such as race, language, where they are working, or what they are doing in formulating probable suspicion that someone may be in the country illegally. The judge said such considerations alone or together violated the Constitution's Fourth Amendment restriction on unreasonable searches and seizures. But a majority of the U.S. Supreme Court disagreed enough that today they stayed that court order, allowing ICE to operate as they had done in the past. Jessica Levinson is with Loyola Law School.
I think the Supreme Court's decision today gives the ability and authority for ICE agents to go to car washes and construction sites and look at the color of people's skin or their ethnicity, whether or not they're speaking Spanish or speaking in an accent, and to at least have a conversation about that person's immigration status. I don't think you can look at this as anything other than a win for the executive branch, a win for the Trump administration, a win for ICE agents who are saying, how else are we to enforce immigration law?
I want to take a moment to acknowledge how this can come across to some Americans. When you hear someone, especially someone who is like not your same race or background, speak about focusing on people based on skin color, it can trigger strong emotions, and I completely understand that. For many Black Americans, this can be particularly triggering. They have every right to feel that way and reason to be sensitive to this kind of language. But here's the key point I want to offer: this is not what's happening here. The agents are not enforcing the law based solely on race or skin color. However, they're following instructions from federal authorities, including ICE and DHS leadership, to use contextual clues, as I said, combined with other facts to identify individuals who are in the country illegally and engaging in unlawfully activity. I want to encourage you to step back and ask yourself, who has really been affected here? Who is this benefiting? Are we protecting or enabling criminals who hide behind claims of racial profiling? Are these federal officers doing the job they were assigned, enforcing immigration law, protecting American workers, and keeping communities safe? Understanding this distinction is crucial because emotions and compassions are natural, but clarity helps us see the real purpose of these actions, which is not about race, it's about crime prevention and upholding the law. And this is not just happening in California. Federal immigration enforcement is gearing up across the country. National Border Patrol Council President Paul Perez saying they will be going after undocumented
And
immigrants.
Paul, DHS reacting to this ruling, they say in part, quote, "This is a win for the safety of Californians and the rule of law. DHS law enforcement will not be slowed down and will continue to arrest and remove the murderers, rapists, gang members, and other criminal illegal aliens that Karen Bass continues to give safe harbor." Paul, what this ruling is essentially going to do is allow Border Patrol, your men and women, to use location, job type, physical appearance, Spanish speaking as some of the factors when making arrests. Why are those factors important to use?
Those are all considered articulable facts. All us to do it, and it takes into account all of those factors that you mentioned.
Paul, what does this ruling mean for ICE sweeps in other American cities like Chicago?
It's great because, again, it allows us to do exactly what President Trump said he was going to do, which is remove these criminals. We know they're operating. I mean, there's millions across the country, so it's not going to be only in Chicago. Anywhere we decide to go, we're going to be successful because of the amount of illegal immigrants that were allowed into this country under the 4 years of the Biden administration.
As you just heard, this is not isolated to border states. Cities like Chicago and others across the U.S. will now see stronger enforcement. I want to read a quote from LA Mayor Karen Bass. She had previously celebrated when the federal judge blocked the order for roving patrols, calling it a win. But after the Supreme Court ruling, here's what she stated: "I want the entire nation to hear me when I say this isn't just an attack on the people of Los Angeles. This is an attack on every person in every city in this country. Today's ruling is not only dangerous, it's un-American and threatens the fabric of personal freedom in the United States of America." Now we have to ask ourselves, who exactly is she protecting? She's framing this as an attack on the American people, yet she's referring to individuals who are here illegally and have broke the law. Her claim that Americans should be alarmed or involved suggests that removing criminals from the streets is somehow dangerous, which is misleading. This approach encourages what I would call toxic compassion, asking Americans to prioritize those who are breaking the law over their own safety and their safety of their families. It's essentially a form of manipulation and gaslighting, suggesting that doing the right thing, enforcing the law, and protecting communities is somehow an attack on us. As Americans, we must think for ourselves, recognize what is right and wrong, and not let emotional appeals compromise our judgment. We need rational leadership, not calls to put the interests of people breaking the law above the safety and well being of lawful citizens. So, the question we must all ask is, who is this actually helping? What I find particularly concerning in both the judge's case and Mayor Bass' statement is sometimes they use people who look like you to provoke fears and strong emotions from compassionate Americans. They often play on the trauma or racial profiling or past injustices to make us feel like something will happen to us personally, even when it's not the case. We have to be very careful not to be confused into thinking that just because someone shares your ethnicity or even your background, they automatically have your best interests at heart. This tactic has been used for a long time, and many Americans are starting to think more critically and ask themselves, is this actually helping us? Are we being protected or are we being manipulated? At the end of the day, Americans want to be safe, have access to jobs, and protect their families. It's crucial to recognize when emotional appeal and trauma are being used to serve someone else's agenda rather than the well being of the community. We must think for ourselves, look at the facts, and make decisions based on what truly keeps our families and neighborhoods safe. This is exactly the point. For years, Americans have watched opportunities shrink while illegal labor has grown. Industries like constructions, landscaping, hospitality, and day labor jobs have been flooded with illegal workers, leaving American citizens pushed to the side. This isn't anything new. Americans have been raising this issue with various presidential officials for years, but over the past 4 years, it has escalated and gotten out of hand. Now, ICE and DHS have the authority to go into those exact spaces, day labor stops, known hiring sites, and industries with a heavy illegal workforce and enforce the law. That means more accountability for employers, fewer illegal workers taking jobs under the table, and more chances for American citizens to get back to the jobs and wages they deserve. This ruling is not about punishing people for speaking Spanish, it's about the total picture and giving immigration officers the ability to do their jobs not just effectively but efficiently the way Congress intended. So while critics call it profiling, the truth is this ruling restores fairness. It ensures that the American people are not struggling while others are exploiting the system. Many Americans agree that this is one of those rare rules that put citizens first, and that's exactly what Americans have been needing. What do you think about this ruling and the way that these policies are being carried out? Do you see it as racial profiling, or do you believe it's about enforcing the law and protecting American communities? I love to hear your perspective. Speak your truth and share what you believe. Your voice is needed. Thank you for joining. If you found this informative, support the channel by subscribing and like this video. I'll see you in the next one.